About 2 weeks ago, we here at LAtelier Marketing bought a GH5s, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about this camera. As usual, I'm not going to spend a lot of time getting into the technical stuff. You guys can check that out on Panasonic's website, all the specifications, all that stuff. I'm just going to give you some first impressions and what I think, kind of a GH5 versus GH5s decision-making process. I went through that. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you probably also went through that. I'm gonna give you guys a quick synopsis, making that decision a little bit easier, hopefully. But first, we shouldn't really shoot this interview with the GH4 anymore now that we have this, so let's get that changed up. Welcome to Vlog. This is now the GH5s shooting in Vlog in 10-bit, and this is probably the most special thing about this camera and why I would obviously choose this over the GH5, but more on that later. We started renting this camera for a couple of different shoots and I was immediately in love with it, in love with the build, in love with how small it is. It's just a really great camera. We have a GH3, we have a GH4, and now we have the GH5s. And over the past 3.5 years, 3 years, we've been shooting a ton with this GH4. This camera has been a workhorse for us, so it was kind of a no-brainer getting the GH5s. So, some first impressions. Vlog is awesome. The color science of the Vlog and the GH5s is awesome because if you shoot on the EVA 1, which is getting very popular, or something higher end like a Panasonic VariCam, you're gonna be able to color correct across all these different bodies, and you're gonna save a ton of time because it's gonna be very similar. So the big thing here between the GH5 and the GH5s is the lack of electronic image stabilization. That's the one thing that everyone's been complaining about, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't miss it at all yet. I think if you're gonna do vlogging and handheld documentary stuff, like exclusively, maybe the GH5 makes more sense, but if you have an image stabilized lens on the GH5s, you still have some image stabilization functionality, and it's still a noticeable improvement from the GH4. So if you're not shooting stills and you're only doing video, then the GH5s is the choice. Two things, not necessarily negative, but things that I noticed after I purchased the camera and things to just take into account are SD cards. If you want to shoot in Vlog or some of these higher end formats, you need a very fast SD card. We have the Sony SD cards with read and write speeds. I think they're right at around 300 megabits per second. And those cards are for a 64 gig, just over $100. So you're buying this camera body, but to shoot Vlog, you also have to spend, at least another $110 on an SD card or two. Another small thing that I noticed is the battery life. These use the same batteries as the GH5, the GH4, the GH3. They all use the same battery. And I was always super impressed with how long one GH4 battery lasts. I could get through like more than half of a shoot day on the same battery, and very impressive. With the GH5s, because there's more power, there's more processing power, the sensor is more powerful, battery consumption is much more aggressive. It's pretty noticeable. So you're gonna want, like if you have an all-day shoot, you're gonna want to be able to charge batteries and have at least 3 of them on hand. So the big debate here is whether you get the GH5 or the GH5s. The main thing being the electronic image stabilization. I would say there's 2 things that should drive your decision. If you're a vlogger and you shoot a lot of things holding your camera out to the side or kind of documentary style, that electronic image stabilization might be really nice for you. The other thing is if you do shoot a lot of stills, the GH5, not the GH5s, is a little bit more geared towards still photography, where it takes away some of that stuff in the GH5s to provide more video functionality, higher frame rates, things like that. So for our purposes at LAtelier Marketing, the GH5s is a no-brainer because we are shooting exclusively video with this camera. So in conclusion, if you're a video shooter, get the GH5s. This camera is amazing. When you add everything up, the internal 10-bit 422, it's just a great camera. Like if you were already shooting on the GH4 and the GH3 in years past, this is awesome. If you have a EVA 1 and you need a smaller, more compact body for some more compact shooting, it pairs perfectly with the EVA 1, which we also rent and shoot with quite often. All right, that's it for this short, concise review of the GH5s after 2 weeks of use. a very biased review because I've been shooting with the GH3, the GH4, and now the GH5s, and also renting the EVA 1 quite a bit. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video, and also check out our company website where we've been posting a lot of work on the GH5s. That's latelier-marketing.com. Thanks.